Okay guys, welcome to another one tutorial. And so the error is resolved, and so now let's go back to my OpenGL view. So my OpenGL view is not really the view we are going to be using, but we are going to be using this my OpenGL view, which is a class that we created, and this class will be extending from will be extending will be inheriting from the OpenGL surface view, sorry, the GLSurface view. And actually there's a quite benefit for you to create your own class by yourself, because you'll be able to override other things, maybe add things to your class, it's not possible with the class that is created by OpenGL platform. Okay, sorry, by Android platform, Android system. And so now we are going to extend from the GLSurface view, which is a view for OpenGL ES by Android. Okay, so let's extend this class we create in the my OpenGL view class. Extend GLSurface view. Okay, now there's also an error saying and there's no default constructor available, so let's create a constructor. So create a constructor and then choose these two options here. Okay, so the same process is quite the same for any other Android development environments you use. And okay, we're done. So we have created this my OpenGL view, which is the OpenGL container for our OpenGL graphic, and it's ready. So now the next thing we need to create is our GLSurface view.renderer, which is the class that will be in charge of rendering our graphic into our container called my OpenGL view. Okay, so but before that, let's try to initialize some stuff. We said to ourselves that we are going to be developing this OpenGL ES graphic by using the OpenGL ES version 2.0. So we are going to be initializing this class, and so let's create a function called let's call it private. I'm gonna call it private void init, like init OpenGL. Call it init OpenGL view. Okay, let me name it init OpenGL view, and no parameter. So we are going to be calling this init OpenGL view into the two constructors. So whenever our OpenGL view needs to be created, these two constructor will be called, and whenever these two constructor will be called, the init function will initialize the OpenGL context and versions. So but first thing we need to do is to initialize the version and the context. Okay, so now we are going to be initializing something. So we are going to be setting the OpenGL ES version we are going to be using. So set a GL GL context here, context, so we can find context version context client version to 2. Okay, which means creating an OpenGL ES version 2.0 context. And so now what we need to do is to set a let's find it here. I think preserve something. It's saying AGL preserve GL context and pause true. Okay, So just preserve the AGL context on pause. So whenever it's on pause, it preserve the context we are actually rendering into. And the second thing we need to do now is that we need to create a renderer class. So we are going to be naming this class my GL renderer. Okay, so before the constructor, okay, now let's use this init OpenGL class function we create into the constructor here, and the second one also okay. So now whenever these two constructors are called, it initializes the state. Okay, and so now what we need to do again is that we need to set the renderer of the for the container by saying private. Let's create a variable called my GL renderer. Okay, I'm going to name this renderer. Okay, yeah, that's cool. So it's still giving us an error saying cannot resolve the symbol of blah 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 stuff. Okay, because my GL renderer is not a valid stuff. Okay, so now what we need to do here is that we need to create this class to solve this error by creating my GL renderer. Go to new Java class, my GL renderer. Okay, click OK. So now this error will be solved here, but variable renderer might not have been initialized. Okay, saying my. So now what we need to do now is to set the renderer. So it's still giving us an error saying a variable renderer might not have been initialized, because maybe we'll solve that later. And so let's create a renderer. We have created the variable, so we are going to call it renderer. It's equal to new my OpenGL renderer. Okay, so now we're done with this. We are done with the OpenGL view stuff, so we can copy this same code here into the first constructor. Okay, so everything is done perfectly well. Bravo to your old self. And so now the error is resolved. Once other optional addition to your GLSurface view implementation is to set the renderer mode to only draw the view when there is a change to your drawing data using the GLSurface view.render mode when it's dirty setting. So I'm going to be doing that in later on. And so one thing we need to also do is that we need to go to our manifest file and set the version of our OpenGL. So we are going to say use this feature. You're using a feature called Android GL version 0 X so 000 40. Okay, and then we're saying Android required let's set it to true, that we require, that means we require OpenGL version 2.0 before we can run this application. And so good, and so far we have gone. Now all this code we are writing are just for Android. So don't forget to subscribe, like, and share my videos. Okay, so I don't think I'm quite sure this second constructor here is not required, and this first constructor is important, very important. If not, you get a crashed app. So now let's go into my GL renderer, and we are going to be implementing from an abstract class called GLSurface So implement, all these are Java code. For Android, implement GLSurface dot renderer. Okay, so there's also quite an error here again, so which we can resolve by saying implement method. Click on implement methods. So we are going to be implementing all this method. Click OK, and we are going to talk about these methods. Just quite easy now. The implementation of the GLSurface renderer class or renderer within an application that uses OpenGL ES is where things start to get interesting. The class control what gets drawn on the GLSurface view, with which it is associated. There are three methods in a renderer that are called by the Android system in order to figure out what and how to draw on a GLSurface view. Number one is on surface created, which is this first function that is called. This function is called wants to set up the views OpenGL environment. The views of OpenGL environment. Okay, this is called on GLSurface view, and this on surface created. Sorry, and then we also have on draw frame here, which is called for each redraw of the view. Okay, and we also have on surface changed, which is called if the geometry of the view changes. For example, when the device's screen orientation changes. There is a very basic implementation of an OpenGL renderer that does nothing more than draw a black background in the GLSurface view. Okay, so this is a renderer that we have created, and let's do something now. Okay, let's do something there. So we are going to be this renderer is not doing anything, just to set the color of the background. Let me see the background of OpenGL. So you are going to be surprised how you create an OpenGL application that just that gives you a background, a specific background that you decide to give. So now we are going to call this function like OpenGL. Remember, we are using OpenGL 2.0, so we are going to be using that, prefixing those function with OpenGL ES 2.0. So 2.0 dot GL clear color. GL clear color is going to be giving us a color. I'm going to let me just give this a green color here. I'm going to give this a green, or let me just say a red mixed with blue. Okay, a red mixed with blue. So I'm going to say 1.0, which is the red, 0.0, which is green. We don't have any green, so you are free to manipulate these values here to see what kind of colors does it takes whenever you change it values in any way. Okay, so in our on surface changes, we are on surface change, I'm going to call the GL ES 2.02 dot GL view, sorry, viewport. Going to take the y and the x, which is 0, the y, which is 0, then the width, the wide and the height. Okay, so good enough. Okay, let's talk about this. On surface created, whenever the surface is created and this function get called, this OpenGL ES 2.0 function get called, which set the background of our graphic to a color which is red mixed with a blue and an alpha value. So we don't know what is going to output on the screen until we run this beautiful graphic application. And now on this surface change function, we add a function, OpenGL ES 2.0 function, that takes care of the GL viewport, where it adapts this viewport to any device. The device changes, the screen changes, maybe orientation, the rotation of the screen is portrait or landscape, so it adapt this with the GL viewport. We're going to be talking about the GL viewport later on, and it use the whenever the system calls this GL surface change, it gives it some values, and these values we use to add to the GL viewport. Okay, so that takes care of our application not to crash whenever the screen orientation changes. So now let's on the onDraw frame. So in the onDraw frame, we are going to call a OpenGL ES function call and GL clear, dot GL clear, and we are going to tell it what it's going to be using this color we set to clear. Okay, so I'm going to say clear the color before. Okay, color before bits. Okay, now so we have some stuff here, so which means redraw background color. That's all there. It's the code example above creates a simple Android application that display a screen using OpenGL, a colored screen using OpenGL. While this code does not do anything interesting, by creating this class, you have laid the foundation you need to start drawing graphic elements with OpenGL. If you are familiar with the OpenGL ES API, you should now be able to set up OpenGL ES environment in your app and start drawing graphics. However, if you need a bit more help getting started with OpenGL, head on to the next lesson for a few more hints. Okay, so if we run this program, now we are going to see the beautiful side of it. So actually, after you run it, if it's successful, congratulations. And also you can also change these values, maybe like for the blue side here, you can put, which is the third value, you can put like 0.5, just change the value and see how the colors change on your Android screen. Okay, so I'm glad we came to a spot where we can be confident in ourselves on how we understand OpenGL ES. So don't forget to subscribe and like my video, share to your friends, show your friends what you have built following this tutorial, and recommend them to your friends. And in a couple other tutorial, we are going to be doing more interesting stuff, which you'll be amazed of how far you can come, how far you can be a graphic developer. Okay, it's only your mindset that can stop your imagination that can stop you. You can develop any other thing. And before we run this program, I forgot to do something that if you don't do that, it's going to crash your program. Okay, so you're going to crash your application if you run this application. You're just going to say application stop to work and stuff like that. So before we do that, we forgot to set the renderer class we created, which is my GL renderer. We forgot to tell the system that, oh, this is the renderer we are going to be using. Okay, so that's what you're going to do now by saying, so we set the renderer for drawing the OpenGL surface view. We created the renderer, but we did not set it, so we're going to set it by calling this function set renderer, and let's call the renderer name, which is render. Okay, you can see it here, renderer. Okay, so now before we run it, just go back here. So we just created this OpenGL view, but we have not put it in the application. So even though we run the application now, it's just going to say hello world. It's going to show an Android activity, and that will not be quite cool because we are not developing an Android activity application. You understand? We are developing another thing else. Okay, so what we're going to do now is that we're going to call I think first we're going to do, okay, it's my OpenGL. Okay, that is the instance of the my OpenGL view class we created, which is equal to new my OpenGL view, and send in the constructor as an argument. Okay, and now let's change this set content view into, change it to the my OpenGL view. So now what we did here is that we created an instance of the class my OpenGL view, which is our OpenGL view class that inherits from the GLSurface view, and after that we create an instance of it and we set it as the content view of the activity. Okay, and now let's go into the my OpenGL view. What we did here is that in my OpenGL view constructor we created, we initialized some stuff and we set the renderer, and okay, and in my GL renderer what we did is that, and the surface view created, we just create a color and set the color, clear the background with that color, and make sure the viewports are okay. So now let's run it. So to connect your Android device to your system, your computer or your laptop, anyone, and click play and connect to it and run it. Okay, so now if you run this application now, it's going to show a color which is a red mixed with blue. Just it gave us maybe purple color, I think pink. So we can see it here. Let me just show you how it looks like on my Android device, and also you can change the values here, change them to whatever you want to change them to. Just change, maybe like change the green to 0.5 and see how the color change in your application. Okay, so don't forget to subscribe, like, and share my videos. Okay, and love you. Okay, so we can see from in my Android device here, we have the name of the application we gave was my OpenGL ES application. You can see it at the top level here, and So this place from here down here is the GL surface view we created that we named my OpenGL surface view. Okay, so that's good. And this round thing you're saying at your left, middle left, sorry, middle right here, it's just the recording icon. It's not part of the tutorial. Okay, it's not part of the what of the application we developed. It's just my tutorial, my recording icon. Okay, so now you can see we are having a blue, we are having a pink color here. So if I change this by adding a green color from my computer and I launch this application again, it's going to change the color of this view. So thank you for following this tutorial. I'm glad. And if you have any difficulties for doing this, just comment below, and I'm going to maybe help you, and any other person can also help. So thank you for your time, and bye.